Her lips trembled against mine, soft and needy, her breath carrying a heat that made my body ache for more. My hand slid slowly down her waist, pulling her closer, until the space between us no longer existed. The sound of her heartbeat thudded against my chest, her fingers curled tightly around the back of my neck as if she was afraid I might let go. The night was silent, except for us. Just us. The kind of silence that wraps around you before a storm breaks. And that storm was desire, wild, reckless, and untamed. I remember tilting my head, deepening the kiss, tasting the faint sweetness of the wine we'd shared earlier. My other hand traced her thigh, and she gasped, a sound that sent a shiver through me. She leaned in, whispering my name, not loud, not clear, but enough to make me lose every ounce of control I thought I had left. It was the kind of moment men dream about. The kind of closeness you don't just stumble into, you fall into it, head first, even when you know you might drown. And I was ready to drown in her ocean. But before I take you deeper into this night, before I tell you how a simple game of chance, a meeting that wasn't supposed to mean anything, turned into the kind of story I now live with every day, let me pause right here. If you're new to this channel, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me until the very end. What I'm about to share is not just a story, it's a warning, a confession, and maybe even a lesson. Alright, let's go back to where it all started. It was a Saturday morning, one of those bright American mornings when the sky looks painted, clear and endless, and the air carries the smell of fresh-cut grass. I was at the community park, playing a casual game of basketball with some friends. Sweat ran down my face, my shirt clinging to my chest as we played hard under the sun. That's when I first saw her. She wasn't dressed like she belonged there, no sports gear, no sneakers, no interest in the game itself. She was sitting on the bleachers, sunglasses on, sipping from a bottle of water, her posture too calm for the chaos around. She had this elegance that didn't match the noise of bouncing balls and laughing men. At first, I didn't pay much attention. Just another beautiful woman watching her kids, maybe. But when my eyes caught hers, something lingered. She didn't look away. Most women would, out of shyness or because they weren't interested. But not her. Her gaze stayed on me, steady, confident, like she already knew the effect she was having. I missed a pass because of it. My buddy shouted, "Man, get your head in the game." But my head was already somewhere else. After the game, I wiped sweat from my forehead and walked toward the water cooler near the bleachers. She was still there, still watching. Her lips curved into a smile so subtle, it almost felt like it wasn't meant for me. But I felt it anyway. "You play like you're trying to prove something," she said. Her voice was smooth, playful, the kind of voice that slides under your skin and stays there. I chuckled, grabbing a drink. And did I prove it? She tilted her head, sunglasses reflecting the bright sunlight. Maybe. Or maybe you were just showing off. That was our first conversation, light, harmless, but with an edge I couldn't ignore. We met again the next weekend. She wasn't there for basketball, she told me later that she came just to clear her head. I didn't press, though part of me wondered why a woman like her, poised, elegant, clearly older than most of the women who came around, would choose that park of all places. Her name, well, I can't share it here. For her sake, she'll remain unnamed. Let's just call her her. What I can tell you is this, she was married. The ring on her finger was too heavy to ignore, even though she never mentioned him at first. And maybe I should have seen that as my signal to walk away. But I didn't. Week after week, our conversations grew longer. From basketball small talk to deeper things, music, books, dreams, frustrations. She had this way of talking that made me feel like she was letting me in on secrets she didn't share with anyone else. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low and the court emptied, we sat side by side on those same bleachers. The warmth of her shoulder brushed mine, and neither of us moved away. She looked at me then, her glasses off, her eyes finally exposed. "You know," she said softly, "you look like trouble." I laughed. "And you look like someone who likes trouble." She smiled, but there was a sadness in her eyes, one I would come to know too well. Looking back, I realize it wasn't just attraction that pulled me toward her. It was curiosity. What was a woman like her, a woman who looked like she had it all, doing here, talking to me like she needed the escape? Over time, our meetings became intentional. No longer coincidences. She'd text me, asking if I'd be at the park. Sometimes we met at a coffee shop instead. She always chose places out of the way, quiet, where eyes wouldn't wander too much. Her laughter became addictive. Her touch, subtle at first, a brush of her fingers against mine while handing me a cup, was enough to keep me awake at night. And slowly, the net she cast around me grew tighter. One evening, we stayed longer than usual, sitting in her car after coffee. The world outside was quiet, headlights passing occasionally, but inside, the air was thick with something unspoken. She leaned in closer, her perfume filling the small space. "You make me feel," she hesitated, her lips so close I could almost taste them, "alive." And that was the first time I kissed her. It was soft at first, careful, as if both of us were afraid of the line we were crossing. But once it happened, there was no undoing it. That kiss burned into me, leaving me restless, hungry, and desperate for more. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed thinking about her lips, her voice, the look in her eyes when she pulled back and whispered, "We shouldn't." But desire doesn't care about should or shouldn't. Desire only cares about the fire. And that, my friends, was the beginning of the game I thought I could win. The game where I believed I could score in her net without consequences. What I didn't know then was that every dream has its shadow. And mine was waiting just around the corner. There's a fine line between friendship and something more, so fine that sometimes you don't even notice you've crossed it until you're too far gone to turn back. With her, that line vanished the moment our lips touched in her car that night. The days that followed were restless. I couldn't stop thinking about her, her laugh, her perfume, the way her eyes softened when she looked at me like I was the only man in the room. My phone became a lifeline, every buzz making my heart race in the hope it was her. And most times, it was. Her messages were never long, never risky. A simple, "Coffee today?" or "Are you at the park?" But the weight behind them was heavier than any love letter. She didn't need to say much, I already knew what she wanted. The second time it happened, we met at a small diner on the edge of town. A place no one who knew her would ever think to look. She wore a simple white blouse, her hair tied back loosely, but no matter how plain she tried to appear, she drew eyes the moment she walked in. When she slid into the booth across from me, the air shifted. "You've been on my mind," I admitted, unable to hold it back. Her lips curved into that teasing smile. Dangerous thing to confess. "True," I said, leaning closer across the table, "but aren't we already living dangerously?" Her laughter was low, almost a whisper, but her eyes told me she agreed. That day, we didn't talk much about basketball or books. Instead, we talked about things that cut deeper. Her marriage came up, not directly, but in fragments. Little hints she dropped without meaning to. Words like lonely and unseen. It wasn't hard to piece it together. She wasn't happy. And I became the escape she didn't know she needed, or maybe the one she had been secretly searching for. Later that afternoon, she offered me a ride again. It felt almost like a repeat of that first night. Her car smelled of vanilla, her voice was soft, and the space between us tightened with every passing second. At a red light, she turned to me, her fingers brushing lightly against my arm. "You make me forget who I am," she whispered. And without thinking, I leaned in and kissed her again. This time, it wasn't soft. It wasn't hesitant. It was hungry, weeks of tension, weeks of pretending, all pouring out in one long, heated kiss. My hand slid up to cup her face, and she let out a sound that made me shiver. When the light turned green, she didn't move. Neither did I. The cars behind us honked, snapping us back to reality. She pulled forward quickly, laughter tumbling out of her lips. "That was reckless," she said, breathless. "Worth it," I replied. And it was. Every second of it. Before I take you deeper, let me pause right here. If you're still with me in this story, make sure you hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what comes next. Trust me, it only gets more intense from here. Alright, let's continue. That. At night, I couldn't stop replaying her words, "You make me forget who I am." What did she mean? Did she mean she forgot she was married? Did she mean she forgot the woman her husband expected her to be? Or did she mean she forgot her own loneliness? Whatever it was, I had unlocked a door. And once a door like that opens, you can't close it. The third time was different. More dangerous. She invited me into her world, carefully, cautiously. Not her home, no, she wasn't that reckless. But a hotel on the edge of town, where no familiar eyes would ever fall on us. I still remember standing outside that room, my heart pounding so loud it drowned out every thought. The door opened, and there she was, hair down, lips painted, wearing something that wasn't casual at all. She had dressed for me. For us. The sight of her knocked the breath out of me. "You came," she said softly. "Couldn't stay away," I admitted. The moment the door shut behind me, she was in my arms. No hesitation this time, no pulling back. Her lips crashed against mine, her hands clutching at me like she was starving. And maybe she was. Starving for touch, for passion, for something real. That night was the kind of night men write about in songs, the kind of night you wish could stretch into eternity. Skin against skin, whispers in the dark, every sigh echoing like a promise we couldn't keep. I remember looking at her as she lay beside me afterward, her head resting on my chest, her hair sprawled across my skin. She looked at peace. Happier than I'd ever seen her. And for a dangerous moment, I let myself believe I could keep her like that forever. But even then, in the quiet of that room, I felt the first pull of reality, the reminder that this was borrowed time, that she belonged to someone else, and that every dream eventually ends. Still, in her arms, I chose to ignore it. For the first time in a long time, I felt alive too. And that was how desire turned into something much bigger. Something I wasn't ready for. Something that would soon cost me more than I ever imagined. Her ocean became my hiding place. Every time I stepped into her arms, it was like drowning, sweet, suffocating, and impossible to resist. I told myself it was just passion, just two lonely people seeking comfort, but deep down I knew it was something far more dangerous. The more time we spent together, the more I stopped seeing her as someone else's wife, and started seeing her as mine. It was a Thursday when she called me, her voice trembling. "I need you tonight," she whispered, not even giving me time to answer before she hung up. Those words, they owned me. I dropped everything and drove to the same hotel, the same room where our secrets lived. When I walked in, she was pacing, her blouse undone at the collar, her eyes restless. The moment she saw me, she melted. She pressed herself against me, her kiss frantic, her breath unsteady. "What's wrong?" I asked between kisses, though part of me already knew. "He suspects nothing," she whispered, almost to convince herself. But I can't stop thinking, what if one day he does? I pulled her closer, tightening my hold. "Then we'll be careful. We already are. Nobody knows but us." Her eyes searched mine, wide and pleading. Promise me you won't let go of this." I didn't think twice. "I promise." And then she kissed me again, hard, desperate, like she wanted to drown every fear in the heat between us. That night, we didn't make love. We clung to each other. Every kiss felt like a goodbye we weren't ready to say, every touch carried the weight of what we were risking. Afterward, she lay with her head on my chest, her fingers tracing absent shapes across my skin. "Do you ever think about the future?" she asked softly. The question hit me like a punch. The future? With her? A married woman? But the words slipped out anyway. Every damn day. She smiled, her lips brushing against me. "Then don't stop." Before I continue, let me pause right here. If you're still following this journey, don't forget to hit the like button, share this video with someone who loves intense stories, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next part. Because trust me, the deeper we go, the more tangled it becomes. Alright, let's get back to it. Our borrowed nights became more frequent. Coffee shops. Long drives. Hotel rooms. Even quiet walks in the park when no one was watching. And every time, she gave me more pieces of herself. She told me about her childhood in Ohio, about how she wanted to be a painter before life pulled her into a marriage built on comfort instead of love. She told me about the silence in her home, how her husband barely looked at her anymore, how her heart ached for someone to simply see her. And I became that someone. But the more she opened up, the heavier my chest felt. Because I wasn't just stealing her kisses. I was stealing her trust. Her hope. Pieces of a life that wasn't mine to claim. One night, lying tangled in sheets. "That still smelled like her perfume," she whispered. "Sometimes I wish I could just run away with you. Leave everything. Just disappear." The thought should have scared me. Instead, it set fire to my veins. "Then do it," I said before I could stop myself. "Run with me." Her lips curved into a sad smile. "You think it's that easy?" "Yes," I lied. "If it means being with you, yes." She kissed me then, slow and tender, like she wanted to believe me. Maybe she did. Maybe, in that moment, we both did. But here's the truth I couldn't ignore. Every touch, every kiss, every night with her was a reminder of something I couldn't have. I was a dreamer trapped in a fantasy, and fantasies always end. Still, I let myself keep dreaming. Because the thought of waking up without her was worse than the risk of getting caught. And so, I sank deeper. Deeper into her ocean. Deeper into a love that wasn't mine to hold. And with every stroke, I knew regret was waiting for me on the shore. The nights with her had started to blur together. Same hotels, same late drives, same hurried whispers in the dark. But something had changed. Something I couldn't ignore anymore. Her perfume lingered on me long after I left her. A trace on my shirt collar. A scent clinging to my skin. And every time I got home, I felt like I was carrying a crime with me. That night, after leaving her arms, I sat in my car in the parking lot, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing holding me together. My heart pounded, not from her kiss this time, but from fear. How long could we keep this up before the cracks showed? The next day, she called me during her lunch break. Her voice was light, playful, like none of the fear existed. "Meet me tonight," she whispered. "Same place. Same time." I wanted to say no. God knows I should have. But my mouth betrayed me. "I'll be there." And I was. When I walked into that hotel room, she was already there, waiting for me, barefoot in a silk slip that made my chest ache. She rushed into my arms like she hadn't seen me in years, her lips pressing against mine as if the world outside didn't exist. "Do you ever feel guilty?" she asked me when we finally pulled apart. The question froze me. Sometimes, I admitted, though guilt was the only thing that haunted me when she wasn't around. Her eyes softened, almost sad. "I do too. But then you touch me, and everything disappears." She guided my hands across her body, as if to prove her point. And once again, fear dissolved into fire. But later that night, as she slept beside me, her breathing soft and steady, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. I thought about her husband. The man who shared her house, her bed when I wasn't there. Did he know? Did he feel her slipping away from him, piece by piece? And then, selfishly, I thought about myself. If this ended, what would I be left with? A memory? A regret? Or nothing at all? Before I go deeper, let me remind you, if you're still caught up in this story, if you feel the weight of this forbidden fire, take a second to like this video, share it with someone who loves real, raw tales, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what comes next. Trust me, the ending, it'll hit harder than you think. Alright, let's continue. The next weeks were a mix of heaven and hell. Heaven, because every time she called me, I ran to her. Her touch, her laughter, her body pressed against mine, it was an addiction I couldn't fight. Hell, because paranoia became my shadow. I started noticing things. A glance from the hotel receptionist. A question from a coworker about where I'd been late at night. Even my own reflection in the mirror looked guilty, hollowed by the lies I was carrying. And yet, I couldn't stop. She was my drug, and I was overdosing willingly. One night, after a particularly intense time together, she lay on my chest, her fingers running over my ribs like she was Memorizi. Gee me. You make me feel alive, she whispered. You are alive, I answered. No, she said, shaking her head softly. I wasn't. Not before you. I was just existing. You gave me back my heart. Her words pierced me deeper than any touch. Because in that moment, I realized, I wasn't just borrowing her body. I was borrowing her soul. And one day, she'd have to take it back. The more she clung to me, the more I felt the walls closing in. We were building a love on borrowed time, in borrowed spaces, under borrowed names. And love built on lies, always finds a way to collapse. I'll stop this chapter here. This is where the regret begins to take shape, not yet breaking us, but circling, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The last time I saw her, the night smelled different. It wasn't perfume, or wine, or even the faint trace of her lotion that usually clung to the sheets. It was something else, like the air was warning me, whispering that the end had arrived. She kissed me as usual, hungry, desperate, like she needed me to breathe. Her fingers clawed at me, her lips trembling with a fire that felt more fragile than before. And I gave in. God, I gave in like I always did. Her body moved with mine like we were made to break rules together. Every sound, every gasp, every touch, it was all chaos wrapped in silk. But when it was over, she didn't collapse into me the way she usually did. She rolled away, facing the wall. Silent. Talk to me, I whispered, brushing her hair aside. Her voice cracked. We can't keep doing this. My chest tightened. Why not? We've made it this far. She turned to me, her eyes glossy with tears I'd never seen before. Because I'm losing myself in you. And if my husband ever finds out, I'll lose everything else too. I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell her she wouldn't lose me, that I'd be enough, that what we had was worth burning everything down for. But deep inside, I knew she was right. We were playing with fire, and every spark left scars we couldn't hide forever. She reached for my hand, squeezing it like a final goodbye. You were my escape. My ocean. My secret. But I can't drown in you anymore. Her words cut me deeper than any blade. That night, I drove home with her perfume still clinging to me, her goodbye still echoing in my ears. And for the first time, I didn't feel like a lover sneaking away. I felt like a ghost, already erased from her story. The days after were torture. My phone stayed silent. No texts. No late-night calls. No whispered invitations to meet me tonight. I replayed everything in my mind, her laughter, her moans, the way her eyes searched mine when she thought I wasn't looking. I replayed it until it stopped feeling like memories and started feeling like hallucinations. And that's when the regret set in. Not just regret for losing her, but for wanting her in the first place. I had stepped into her ocean thinking I could swim. Thinking I could enjoy the waves without drowning. But the truth was, I was never meant to be in her waters. Now, all I had left was a memory of her body against mine, and a haunting question that kept me awake at night. Was I her love, or just her mistake? Before I end this confession, let me pause right here. If you've stayed with me through this journey, through the fire, the secrets, the regrets, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who loves real stories, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next tale. Because life is full of stories like mine. Some sweet, some bitter. But all unforgettable. Looking back now, I don't hate her. I don't even blame her. I just wonder if somewhere, in the quiet of her nights,